I've been fighting a brave and, at this point, no, I haven't. It's not a losing battle. I've completely lost the battle. Allow me to explain. In my near 27-year career, I've had the opportunity to drive every new Kia and Hyundai product sold in Canada. And for a large portion of all those years, I was faced with vehicles that were just cheaply made, but that did the job. They had a number of reliability issues, they depreciated a lot, and I've almost always had an issue with their design direction. And this week, I think ultimately is when I will throw in the towel. In fact, I did so 10 months ago. When I actually did something I told almost everyone I know not to do, which is buy, or lease in my case, a Korean product. My EV9. You may have seen my EV9 in a number of videos on Motor Illustrated's YouTube channel. But this week specifically is when, as I've said, I just quit. This battle, I have lost it. And I give in, I give up. The reason is quite simple. This, as you can see before you, is the all-new 2026 Hyundai Palisade. And I will put it in a simple word. It's ugly. It's just really, really ugly. These thoughts, very kind, of course, mimic those of the Ioniq 9. But the bottom line is that it really, really doesn't matter. Because this thing is, in short, just an incredible 3-row, mid-size, value-packed SUV that is all but crushing the competition, and has since it was introduced, the first generation for the 2020 model year, which then got a facelift in 2023, and now we have an all-new generation. I mean, say, compared, when you look at the list of mid-size SUVs that the Palisade competes with, the Pathfinder, the Highlander and the Grand Highlander, the CX-90, the Telluride, which is, I think, better looking than this, the Grand Cherokee L, the Ford Explorer, the Dodge Durango, and I'm sure I'm forgetting 2 or 3 of them. Did I say Explorer? I think I did, yeah. Nowhere does any of those do something specifically that much better than the Hyundai Palisade, with the sole exception of styling. But despite my misgivings for the styling and everything I felt about these vehicles, the Koreans, the Hyundai and Kia vehicles, I absolutely love it. There are things about this Palisade that just annoy me to no end, other than the styling. And by the way, if you look at this one carefully, and you can see in the caption, as an XRT, hey, I can do this, XRT Pro, which is, in fact, in my opinion, the least worst bad looking of the lineup. Which isn't saying much, I suppose. But I find myself excited at the prospect of taking a key, jumping in, going to pick up the kids, or just doing whatever with this ugly 2026 Hyundai Palisade. And so what I'm going to do in the following video is I'm going to point out, the usual stuff as far as interior displays. See, on the inside though, the updates that they've made, wow, incredible. So many little details make a huge difference. Anyway, I'm going to point those things out, and then we're going to go for a drive where it really is hit or miss. Okay, I first want to draw your attention to the front end. And maybe it's in part because of my supposed more deeper understanding of the auto industry that irks me about the front end, is that I look at this, all these plastics, these massive lenses, and all I can think of, or one of the things I can think of, is one small tap, just rear-ending whatever, will cost $10,000+ to replace the lenses, the grills, and by grills I mean the two grills. It's going to be insane. I understand that everything has to be flush for improved aerodynamics, but this is just over the top. Now, I didn't specify that this is an XRT Pro and it is the best looking version of it. Of the reasons, well, if we just move to the side, I do like the subtle trim cladding around the wheel wells. It's not exaggeratedly big, so it's okay, it works out. I do like the fact that the lower grille is sticking out a little bit. It's kind of a faux push bar, but it's completely pointless. In fact, I will say that without the front tow hooks, this would look completely ridiculous. Of the not too ridiculous colors, this is earth brass matte, which is kind of cool, and it really works with the XRT trim, with the wheels and the darker trims, because everything is blacked out on the XRT, as you can very well see. There are no light colors with the exception of this, which is supposed to, again, look like a push bar. I won't go over all the trims, but at $53,699 before fees, that's your base preferred trim, which comes with twin 12.3-inch displays, all-wheel drive, self-leveling rear suspension, leatherette, 8-passenger seating, 20-inch wheels, heated everything all over the place. For the value, for the price, that is nearly impossible to beat. There's a top trim, Ultimate Calligraphy Hybrid, which is very, very interesting, and I look forward to driving that. $65,699. But this, again, is the XRT Pro. And it is, and I will emphasize this, only $57,799. It's got these unique 18-inch wheels and tires, which look pretty damn good, if I must say. You have Bose audio. It's got captain seats, so it's a 7-seater as opposed to an 8-seater. It's got cooled front seats. For the price, this is kind of the, for me, it's what makes it that much more interesting than almost anything else. And I mentioned the tow hooks, and it's got a rear limited slip differential if you like to do off-roading things. So, a few words just on the rear end styling. The brass looks really good, in this light as the sun sets. It looks incredible. My only issues with the design in the rear really are the taillights. They look a little bit too low, and I'm not too sure about this. It kind of droops the butt a little bit, but I'm a huge fan of this fairly oversized spoiler here, and the XRT Pro badge itself is actually really cool. It looks like it belongs like on a Kubota truck or tractor or something like that. Again, tow hooks, but the absence of bumpers, I don't know, it makes it a little too smooth for something that should be that much more rugged. Any midsize 3-row SUV worth its salt, is that an expression still? I don't remember. Has to have, well, power hatch, yes, but decent trunk space. So you'll find 540 liters behind the third row, as well as a little bit of actually quite useful storage under the floor. 1,310 liters behind the second row. And this, what I do love the most about this is how wide the bottom is. We're looking at about 4 feet across, so you can fit huge things. In fact, if you were so inclined, you could carry, stuff to improve your house, for example. Anyway, the details on the interior are, I don't know, the interior is fantastic. That's all I can say. Shades are standard. Great handles for the kids, cup holders, storage, second row seats, captain seats in the XRT, which is one of the reasons why this is a great version, are adjustable seat back recline, and they actually pop forward, which is great. And, well, look, access, I'm going to do it this way, to the third row is actually quite easy. And you're not going to see me, but you're going to see what I'm going to do. So I'm doing this because the third row is actually quite spacious. There's a fair amount of room back here. And the second row is rolled all the way back. As I always say, I'm almost 5'10", and my knees are up against the seat. So if you move this 3 notches forward, you will have plenty of room. It is actually very impressive. I'm going to give you a shot right now of the dashboard. And I think it is so far the best evolution of the twin 12.3-inch display because it has a hood. Okay, just before we get back to the screens, I just want a quick shot of the door cards. They're very simple, yet, and I could say, you know, it kind of looks cheap in ways that maybe I've complained about Ford products being in the past, but the materials are actually not bad to the touch. I'd say even nice. I love the simplicity of this extra long handle, good door bins. The seats themselves are generally fairly comfortable. I like the little details there, the mountain pass, whatnot, XRT in the headrest, so good comfort overall. But my favorite part, pièce de résistance. Okay, so just before I do that, this is your modern best way interpretation of the column shifter and rotary knobs for driving. It's just, I think, one of the most brilliant uses found in most Kia and Hyundai products. No, but this is what I love. So there's your 12.3, twin 12.3-inch display, but it's this. It's the hood over them. It's so elegant, yet so classic. It's kind of a mixture between modern and contemporary. I don't know exactly how to explain it other than saying that I think I've seen a dash like this in the past, and I just plainly love it. So your infotainment system, very straightforward, very Kia Hyundai, everything works, and it's the learning curve is quite, well, quick. I do love these controls, straightforward also for the radio and your home button and just your go-to menus. Down here, the panel for the HVAC controls, fairly straightforward. The buttons themselves, the surfaces are far enough apart that you shouldn't hit two at the same time, though in the winter with gloves might be a little bit difficult. And while I'm down here, this storage unit right down here is brilliant. So there's some important documents, perfectly well positioned. Nice little shelf for your sunglasses. And up here, I love the positioning of the cable plugs, wireless charging, cup holders, decent sized bin. It looks as good as it is functional. I love this interior. I love the ambient lighting. Just everything about it is fantastic. Now, just so you know, so your drive modes, so drive, terrain, I'll show you what that looks like here. So when you toggle with this, that's how you go from one drive mode to the other. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. But just generally speaking, what a superb place this is. I really truly do love spending time in the 2026 Palisade. The interior space, I don't know, it's really, yeah. Normally I wouldn't wear my sunglasses, but right now the sun is kind of really low and I want to be safe, so it's a little bit better. Okay. As I mentioned, XRT Pro, there's a V6 version and there's a hybrid version. For the moment, so we'll jump right into it. The XRT is only available with the newly appointed 3.5 liter V6, which is the standard powertrain for the Palisade. I do hope that Hyundai will see fit to introduce and offer, and I've not even driven it, but I can't imagine it'll be terrible, the 2.5 turbocharged hybrid powertrain in all of its trims, and perhaps even eventually replace the V6 altogether. Normally, I would say it'll be a sad day when the V6 is gone, but unlike, say, the Japanese V6s of the same displacement, this one is not quite as nice. It is smooth enough, but nowhere near as smooth as Toyota's or Honda's V6. And it does produce 287 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque. That torque comes in at 5,000 RPM. But it's kind of laggy and it hesitates. It's not entirely comfortable doing its job. So exploiting the 5,000 pound towing limit is probably not something I would enjoy doing. Of the many things that I'm not crazy about the V6, and it could also apply to the hybrid powertrain, is that it's extremely jumpy. From a full stop, with or without the auto start stop, even the lightest amount of throttle pressure makes it jump forward. But what's worse is that after that, it kind of falls in a lull, like in a hole where there's next to nothing going on. The only way to kind of overstep that is by being in sport drive mode or setting your my mode with the powertrain on sport at all times. But what that also does, and especially if you use the auto hold function, is that it also jumps forward when the system unlocks the vehicle. It is incredibly unpleasant. I mean, I love hold. Auto hold is a brilliant, brilliant function, but I can't use it in this. And being in eco drive mode is, in my mind, borderline dangerous. So I've been in my mode almost exclusively, where I have the powertrain in sport, where I do have some throttle response down low and early on. The other reason why I don't think I'll be extremely sad to see the V6 go is fuel consumption. I'm averaging just close to 16 liters per 100 kilometers in my combined driving, which has been about 50-50 highway and city driving. That's just terrible, borderline unacceptable. NRCan and Hyundai Canada said you can expect to average about 12.7, but I mean, I think in the best situation, you're going to get 12 on the highway, and it just goes up from there as soon as you start hitting the city. Thankfully, well, I was going two different directions. Thankfully, the 8-speed automatic transmission is still compliant. It agrees with what the driver wants to do. It's generally smooth, generally seamless. But it really, I don't want to say takes a beating, but because torque comes in at such a high RPM, you gotta hold it in and you gotta keep the engine revs high, and it's not entirely pleasant. Brake steering, fine. The other slight disappointment is I was hoping that the XRT Pro was gonna give me a very smooth, compliant drive and ride. Typically, off-road dedicated vehicles with extra ground clearance have a more supple, longer travel suspension. Now, this does have about 8.4 inches of ground clearance, which is less than you get, say, in a Subaru Forester. But that extra centimeter, give or take 25 millimeters, I think comes only from the tires. So my concern is that once you get into, say, an Ultimate Calligraphy with 21-inch wheels, the ride quality will not match the supposed or projected ride comfort that you would get in a vehicle of that caliber, if you will, because this is okay. So on the road, it's fine, but it's not as nice as I thought it should be. But otherwise, on the inside, brilliant. So look, in short, if in the past I would have said, hold out for a Toyota Highlander, get a Honda Pilot, that's what I forgot earlier on, I give up. I quit. 4 out of 5 of these vehicles on the road, probably, if not 3 out of 4, give or take, are going to be leased anyhow. So over a 3, 4, 5 year period, it doesn't necessarily matter. The all-new Hyundai Palisade is just, it's brilliant. As I've said before, it's ugly, but then a lot of people think I am too, so maybe the Palisade and I have more in common than I thought. But it's a great SUV.